Hey, what is up, everybody? So now we are about 1 month into the Packers offseason. There's about one more month until free agency starts, the new league year starts, so we'll get to see some trades go down, things like that. It would be exciting if the Packers make a big-time trade. I'm not holding my breath, but considering the Packers' current cap situation, I think this could be a year if we ever see Brian Gutekunst really go all in, for a player. I think this would be the year just of where the Packers are, their cap situation. So it'll be fun to watch to see if he actually does something crazy, which I'm sort of hoping for. But with edge rusher, in my opinion, being the Packers' biggest need this offseason, I want to look through some different free agent edge rushers, guys who could make sense in Green Bay. And there's a lot of different guys available. There's some higher price guys, some cheaper guys. And so I want to go through a list of lots of different guys that could make sense for the Packers to sign. And so I'll start off on the higher end. I'd say this is probably the highest priced edge rusher free agent, and then we'll go down the list. But Khalil Mack, who is about to be 34 years old, so he's getting up there in age, but he's still been playing top-tier football with the Chargers the past couple of years. He was 25th this past season in win percentage among edge rushers at 14.5%. And all these stats I'm going to read for these edge rushers is among players who had at least 100 pass snaps from PFF. So that's the same. All these stats for these guys will be from, with that being the minimum snap threshold. So 25th in the league, 9 sacks. PFF projects him at a 2-year, 22.5 per year deal, which would make him the 10th highest paid edge rusher in the NFL. I think that this could work. The only thing that makes me potentially cautious about this is he's about to be 34 years old. He could very well produce at the same level in his 34-year-old season and his 35-year-old season, but I do think there's at least some kind of risk when you're signing a 34-year-old player. The thing is with him, it's not like he's really declined, and so that's where I think you could be somewhat confident signing him to a 1 to 2 year deal. But that is in the back of my mind. If things went south, that's a lot of money to pay a guy who is 34 years old. So I still think it could work, but it's slightly risky in my opinion. The next guy, there's actually two next guys who are in a little bit of a slightly cheaper range. We have Josh Sweat of the Eagles. He's getting close to 28 years old. He's 27 right now. PFF projects him at a 3-year, $18 million per year projection, which would make him the 6th highest paid edge rusher in the NFL. He was very productive this season, 28th in win percentage at 14%. He does have 2 10-plus sack seasons in the past 3 years. He had 11 this past year. He did just win a Super Bowl with the Eagles, and so they may want to bring him back. He may not be available, but this is a guy that I would almost prefer to a Khalil Mack just because he's a little younger, almost 6 years younger, and you could get him per PFF if their projections are right for a little bit cheaper. So he's someone that I think could make sense. And when we look at the Packers edge rushers, the guy who actually was the most productive when it came to win percentage was Brenton Cox Jr. at 14.8%. We had Rashawn Gary at 12.2%. Then Aaron Mosby, 9.6%. Lucas Van Ness, 9.5%. And Kingsley Enagbare, 6.6%. And so Brenton Cox, I think, needs to get a lot more snaps next year. We'll see if he can keep it up with a lot more snaps. He played like 112 pass rush snaps. But he had a better win percentage than Khalil Mack, than Josh Sweat, than pretty much all these guys I'm going to read here. So if he can keep that up, he will be an insane value for the Packers next year. But Josh Sweat, I think he could be a very productive guy for the Packers. Now, here's one that I don't think the Packers should sign, but as I was doing this research, there are a few different guys that popped up, and I want to give my reason why I don't think this should make sense. So we have Hassan Reddick, who's 30 years old. PFF projects him at a 2-year, $12.5 million per year projection, so less money than Khalil Mack and Josh Sweat. The thing with him, he had that big dispute with the Jets where he wasn't wanting to play, the whole contract dispute. Not sure exactly every single detail there. But during his time with the Jets, he was not very good this past year. He was 95th in win percentage at 7.5%. He had way less snaps, close to 400. He had 900 the year before. And a few years prior, he was playing really good football. So maybe it was just a down year. But if he plays at the same level next year, I don't think he's more valuable than a guy like, Lucas Van Ness or Kingsley Enagbare, necessarily. So I would prefer the Packers don't target him. He's 30 years old, and he didn't play great last year. Then we have a guy here who I really like the idea of this. Chase Young. He's 25 years old, going to be 26 sometime this offseason. He was 32nd at 13.7% win percentage, so almost 2% better than Rashawn Gary. PFF projects him at 2 years, $17.5 million, which would make him the 16th highest paid edge. He had 11 sacks in 2023, 7 sacks in 2024. The reason I like this is he's still very young, and I think that he has a lot of great football ahead of him because, I mean, when you're about to be 26, I think you're sort of in your prime years in the NFL. And so at $17.5 million a year, that's 16th highest. It's not like you're having to break the bank for Chase Young. And I think he's a consistently solid edge rusher. So I think you just get some consistency there if you brought Chase Young in. Now, here's one that I think could be a massive steal, could be a massive value. This is Baron Browning of the Arizona Cardinals. He's 25 years old, about to be 26. PFF projects him at a 1-year, $6 million contract. So this guy is way cheaper than the other guys. He's had some injury concerns. I think he played in 13 games last year, so it's not like he missed a ton of games this past season. But he was actually better off when it came to win percentage than any of these other players I read, better than any Packers player. 13th in the NFL in win percentage at 16.4%. He hasn't been very productive when it comes to sacks. He has 13 sacks in 4 seasons. He has a total of 1,920 snaps in his first 4 years in the league. But he has been, I mean, he was really good when it came to win percentage. So that could be a guy where the Packers, if they want to spend less at edge, but then sort of take a chance on a guy who was actually really good when it came to win percentage on the edge last year, they could sign him to if PFF is right, which I feel like they have pretty solid projections, to a 1-year, $6 million deal. So that's one to watch out for if the Packers go the value route, which we have seen Gutekunst do in times past. And I think when you hit on a guy for a cheap contract and they play at top tier level, that's sort of the formula to really find success in the NFL. You look a few years back, the Packers got Devondre Campbell when he played really good football that 1 year. It was like a 1-year, $2 million deal, and he was an all-pro. And so I think that if you really want to find that playoff success, if you can hit on a few guys like that where the year before, maybe they had some concerns, maybe there's some things that are pushing their market value down, but if the Packers see something in one of these guys, cheaper value guys, if they hit, it's sort of like a home run. So I think that you could always take some chances like that, and this could be a guy where that could potentially make sense. So all in all, you have a lot of different options there. I feel like Chase Young and Josh Sweat are in a similar range, similar production, similar age, and then you have Khalil Mack if you want to go for an older player. I just think, if he was 31, maybe you take the risk, but 34, I'm just not sure that's worth the risk. But at the same time, he could come in next year and just dominate once again. I wouldn't be shocked about that either, but I feel like there's at least a slight risk with age when you're almost about to turn 34 years old. But those are my thoughts. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.